Hey there, Prairie Plant Girl here. Today I'm going to be planting some beans. So it's the 22nd of June today, so we're finally into summer, yay. And we've actually have a little bit of warmth today. I can be out without a jacket on, wonderful. I know some of you are cooking and in a huge heat wave, so sorry to complain about the cold here, but it has been cold, like still getting frost warnings in June. So I'm excited to finally have some warm weather in the forecast and hopefully be able to plant my beans out and have them safe from frost. Even my peas aren't really growing. I should be picking peas by now. They've hardly grown at all. But I'm going to be putting my beans in front of my peas. I don't really think much is going to happen with my peas, but if they decide to take off, then I'm just going to have to contend with both plants going here at the same time. My plan was successions of plants, and as the peas are fizzling out, the beans would be getting started, but as weather does, it hasn't been cooperating with me. So today I'm going to be planting some yellow custard beans. These are coated bean seed. I've had them for a few years. They're a nice yellow bean. They're a bush bean. And you can freeze these and cook them, or I really like to eat them raw. I'll also be planting some Blue Lake green beans. These are also a bush bean. And these again are good for freezing, or in my case, just I like to eat them raw. I love raw beans. And then I am hoping to get some black turtle beans planted as well. And I'm kind of thinking I'm just going to put them down the middle of this bed. It wasn't really my original plan, but there's supposed to be parsnips down there, and I used old saved parsnip seed, which I know better than to do, and I only have, I think, like 5 parsnip plants coming up, so I think I'm pretty safe to plant some beans through there. And they're a bush bean, but I might put a little bit of a staking system with some netting to just kind of keep them upright off of the other plants, because the black turtle beans will take close to 100 days to get matured before I pick them. These are a drying bean. I've never tried to eat them fresh. I always just save them, let them dry in the plant, and pick them that way to save for dried black beans. So today is all about beans and getting them planted. So that's what we're doing today. Let's get some beans in the ground. So I'm just going to run a row down the middle of this that's supposed to be parsnips. Pull out the weeds that are in here. So now that I got those weeds out, I'm just going to come down, and there is the odd parsnip in here, but I'm just going to come down through here and make a little furrow. I'm going to stop for these parsnips here and continue our way along, and we'll get those black beans in there. So here's the black beans. They look just like they would be if you purchased dried black beans in the store. And I usually put them about an inch or so apart and about half an inch down. A little bit difficult to see in the soil there, but I'm just going to go all the way along and put them in their furrow. And the kind of shiny stuff you might see here on the soil is vermiculite, because like I said, I was trying to grow parsnips here, and I always put vermiculite down with my parsnips and carrot seeds to help keep them nice and moist while they germinate. But parsnip seeds really don't like to come up when they're old, and I think these seeds are just a couple of years old, and most seeds you can plant, like these bean seeds, are several years old, but parsnips do not like to germinate after they've been saved for a year or two. And I'll just come through and cover them over. I have a few extra seeds. I'm just going to pop them down the side here. So I'm going to be doing the exact same thing for the yellow custard beans, and I have a drip line right here, so I'm just going to make my furrow right along the drip line. That will ensure they're getting nice watering. I'm not sure if I have enough of the yellow custard to get all the way to the end, but that's okay because you may have noticed I just moved into the shade here because my apple tree is above me. So if it's a little bit shaded down here, the beans won't grow quite as well, and that's okay if they're more towards the front of the bed then. There is, like, the afternoon sun does mostly come from over here, so they still will get enough sun to grow. It just might be a little bit less because they won't get as much morning sun. So beans do like full sun to grow. In some areas where it's really hot and humid, you might find that you have issues with some fungal diseases with them. I don't really find I have a lot of issues with that here, but we don't have a ton of humidity here in Saskatchewan. And as long as you just keep them well watered so they come up and grow, they don't need a huge amount of fertilizer. So if you just have a good fertile soil, that's about all they need. Something that they can get their roots through, and they'll be happy. Beans are a nitrogen fixing plant, but there's been varying degrees of research on whether that's helpful for the actual soil, or because when you pull up the roots, they'll have little white nodules on them, and that's apparently where they're storing that extra nitrogen. So if you put the plants in the compost, you might get more nitrogen that way, or cut the plants off and leave the roots to rot in the ground, which is a better idea. Then you might be able to get that nitrogen back up at the surface of the soil. But it's my understanding nitrogen doesn't really hang out very long, so unless you're succession sowing, I'm not really sure it's something that's super to your advantage, and it's not something I would plant beans specifically for getting that nitrogen fix in the soil. There's the yellow custard beans. Now we just have the blue lake beans on the other side of the bed to plant. So once I get the weeds out of here, I'll do the exact same thing for these blue lake, I think they're the blue lake, yeah, the blue lake bush beans. So, a few more weeds. It must have been a flower the seed had that landed in this bed, because I have all sorts of something coming up. They almost look like petunias. I'm not sure. Another great way to eat beans is to pick the pods off the plants and just kind of quickly saute them with some garlic, or better yet, garlic scapes. That's the seed off the hardneck garlic, or the flower that comes up and twirls around on a hardneck garlic plant. And lots of times I find they're ready to harvest at the same time. So it's nice to grab those garlic scapes and a little bit of butter and some green beans, nice and washed and fresh from the garden, garlic scapes, and just, like I said, saute them real quick in a frying pan. Quick, easy, and delicious, and nice and healthy too. Now, I plant my beans closer together than the bean package says. I think the bean packages say like to keep them 4 to 6 inches apart, and I do them like 1 to 2 inches apart. So I find they grow fine like that. Like I said, if you have more humidity, it might be more of an issue. But they grow well for me at that spacing. So if you are planting your beans and you're like, hey, that's not what Prairie Plant Girl said to do, or that's not what the package says, to do something completely different. That's why it's just how I do it, and that's how I've always done it, and they grow fine. If you live in a really humid area, you might want more spacing just to get more airflow around your plants. So there, that's 3 varieties of beans planted out in just a few minutes. It's great to have that job done. I've been kind of putting it off because the weather's been so cold and beans really don't like to go into cold soil and don't like to grow when it's cold out. But I'm really hoping now that we're officially into summer that the forecast for warm weather is accurate and we can get a good warm up here. It's definitely warm when the clouds get off the sun here today. And all the rain we're getting, it's given a little bit of humidity today, but I'm enjoying it. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.